I spent 3 weeks researching solar before I bought my first panel, and I came out the other side more confused than when I started. Watts, amps, volts, inverters, charge controllers, lithium versus lead acid, grid tied versus off grid. The terminology alone is enough to make most people give up and just stay plugged into shore power forever. So I'm going to do what nobody did for me and explain the whole thing from scratch in plain language with zero assumed knowledge. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how a tiny house solar system works and what you actually need and how to size one for your specific situation without hiring a consultant or spending a week in an engineering rabbit hole. Here's the simple version first. Before any technical detail, here's the whole system in one paragraph. Solar panels on your roof collect sunlight and convert it directly into electricity. And then that electricity flows into a charge controller, which manages how to power gets stored so it doesn't damage your batteries. And the batteries store the energy so you can use it at night or on cloudy days. And when you want to run something, a lamp, a phone, a charger, or a refrigerator, the power flows out of the batteries through an inverter, which converts it from the type of electricity batteries store into the type of electricity your appliances use. And that's it. Four components: panels, charger, controller, batteries, and inverter. Everything else is wiring, mounting, hardware, and switches. And hold the picture in your mind. And every technical detail that follows is just filling in specific on one of those four components. Step one: figure out how much power you actually use. The single most common solar mistake is buying a system based on what sounds like enough rather than what your actual consumption requires. People buy 400 watts of panels because it sounds substantial without ever calculating whether 400 watts covers what they use daily. Sometimes it does, and often it doesn't. And a solar system that's 20% undersized for your needs will frustrate you every single cloudy day for as long as you own it. Calculating your consumption is simpler than it sounds. Make a list of every electrical device you use in a typical day. And next to each one, write its wattage. That this is usually printed on the device itself or in its manual, and how many hours per day you use it. You use that device, and multiply those numbers by those two numbers together for each device to get your watt hours. Add up all watt hours and you have your daily energy consumption. A practical example for a modest tiny house: LED lighting at 30 watts, or for 5 hours at 150 watt hours. A laptop at 45 watts for 4 hours is 180 watt hours. A 12-volt refrigerator running efficiently uses roughly 3 to 400 watt hours per day. A phone charger, a fan, a water pump. But functional tiny houses typically consume between 800 and 1500 watt hours per day. So write your number down. Everything that follows builds from this. Step two: sizing your panels. And now that you know your daily consumption, you can figure out how many panels you need to cover it. Solar panels are rated and watched, which tells you how much power they produce per hour in ideal conditions. Full sun, optimal angle, perfect temperature. In the real world, panels produce their rated output for roughly 4 to 6 hours per day, depending on your location, season, and roof orientation. And this is called your peak sun hours. And it's the number that bridges your panel wattage to your actual daily energy production. And here's the math: if you need 1200 watt hours per day and you got 5 peak sun hours, you need your panels to produce 240 watts per hour of peak sun, meaning 240 watts of panel capacity minimum, and realistically 3 to 400 watts to account for insufficient efficiency losses in wiring and the charge controller. A single 200-watt panel would leave you short on cloudy days. The two 200-watt panels give you comfortable headroom. And for most tiny houses, a system between 4 and 800 watts of panels covers daily needs comfortably across 3 seasons. And if you're in a northern climate with serious winters, or if you run energy hungry appliances like an air conditioner or electric cooking, size up. If your lifestyle is minimal, LED lights, phone charging, a laptop, and a small fridge, 400 watts is often genuinely sufficient. And here's step three: the battery bank. Panels produce power when the sun shines. And batteries let you use that power when it doesn't. And sizing your battery bank correctly is as important as sizing your panels. An undersized battery bank doesn't mean you run out of stored power overnight, and an oversized one means you spent money on capacity you'll never use. The standard recommendation is to store enough energy to cover 1 or 2 days of consumption without any solar input. For a tiny house using 1200 watt hours per day, that means a battery bank capable of storing 1200 to 2400 watt hours. And here's where battery chemistry matters. Lead acid batteries, that old standard, should only be discharged to 50% of their capacity to avoid damaging them, which means you need to buy twice the storage capacity you actually plan to use. A 1200 watt hour lead acid bank needs to be 2400 watt hours bank in practice. And lithium batteries, specifically the lithium iron phosphate called life PO4s, basically, can safely discharge up to 80% or even 100% without long term damage. And last year, or last 3 to 5 times longer than lead acid and weigh significantly less. And they cost more upfront and worth every penny for a tiny house where weight and space both matter. A practical lithium battery bank for a modest tiny house is typically in the 100 to 200 amp hour range at 12 volts, which translates to 1200 to 2400 watt hours of usable storage. That covers 1 day of full of typical consumption with meaningful reserve for the cloudy days. Step four, the charge controller and the inverter. These two components are where people either spend money wisely or they throw it away. The charge controller sits between your panels and your batteries and does one critical job. It prevents your panels from overcharging your batteries, which could permanently damage them. And there are two types, the PWM and MPPT. The PWM controllers are cheaper and work fine for small, simple setup systems. And the MPPT controllers are more efficient, especially in the cold weather and low light conditions, and will squeeze meaningful more power out of your panels over time. And for a tiny house system of 400 watts and more, an MPPT controller is worth the extra costs. And expect to, between 80 to 200 for a quality unit size for your system. The inverter converts DC power stored in your batteries into AC power. And the standard household current that your appliance runs on, inverter sizing is based on the maximum wattage you'll ever draw. And at one time, not your daily average. If your largest single load is 1,000 watts hair dryer, your inverter needs to handle at least 1,000 watts, and realistically 1,500 to 2,000 watts to handle startup surge from the motors and the refrigerator and the pumps. A pure a Puricine wave inverter is strongly recommended over a modified sine wave unit because it's compatible with sensitive electronics, runs motors more efficiently, and produces less heat. Budget $100 to $300 for a quality pure sine wave inverter for a typical tiny house system. And what a complete system actually costs for a property size, a properly sized tiny house solar system that covers genuine daily needs. And here's what the honest budgeting looks like for 100 watts of solar panels runs between, 300 and $500. And depending on the brand and where you buy, then a 100 amp hour lithium battery bank, enough for one solid day for storage, runs between 600 and 900 for a quality unit. And an MPPT charge controller runs anywhere from 100 to $180. A pure sine wave inverter runs 150 to $250. The wiring, the fuses, the connectors, the mounting hardware, and a battery monitor adds up to about 150 to 250 total for a functional quality system. At 1,300 to $2,100, I'd say, for a good system. And that number will power a comfortable tiny house for 10 or more years on panels and 20 or more years on lithium batteries with zero monthly electrical bills. Compared to the ongoing costs of shore power hookups or generator fuel, the payback period is typically 2 to 4 years. And the one thing most people get wrong after everything, the panels, the batteries, the charge controllers, the inverters, the most common mistakes tiny house solar owners make is not monitoring their system closely in the first month. A battery monitor that shows you real time state of charge, daily consumption, and charge history, it's a $30 to $80 investment that tells you immediately if your system is sized correctly for your actual lifestyle. Most people find that one or two appliances they didn't account for are consuming far more than expected, and catch that in the month one, and you can adjust your habits or add capacity before winter makes undersizing an emergency rather than an inconvenience. And solar for tiny houses is not complicated. It just requires honest math done before you spend any money. Do the calculation, buy that number, and monitor the first month and adjust if needed. That process has worked for thousands of tiny house owners, and it will work for you. I wish you the best of luck. Like, comment, and subscribe down below. And if you really liked today's video, feel free to buy me a coffee. It's in the description and on the site's main page. And check out this video, a little bit more about tiny house living here on the right. Have a good day, and we'll see you on the next one.